Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. Also, subscribe to the Tobin and Leroy show, which you guys can get on any podcast platform. And if you want to watch us, you guys can do that on the 560WQM YouTube page. I put that in the description. Would mean a lot to me. A lot of great content there from not only me, but my entire brethren over there at the radio station. So check us on out. Lots of fun every single day. We're on live 10 to 2. You guys can get in on the chat. It's lots of fun, people. This LeBron James bomb that was thrown out by Jeff Teague. First of all, I reacted to this because I saw a clip on social media. I think everybody did, and that Jeff Teague walked back because he was starting to get in on this. LeBron James is on steroids. And I was like, the thing that that just stood out to it immediately, I guess they were debating what LeBron James was better, Heat LeBron James or second stint Cavaliers LeBron James, which the obvious answer is Heat LeBron James. MVP, 2 championships to 1. You know, one of the best, a piranha defensively. Like, they're like, oh, threes. I was like, out of here. But then Jeff Teague was like, yeah, big 3 LeBron was on steroids. He's like, you remember when LeBron just left for 3 weeks? And I was like, I know that he's blending his years because it wasn't until the next year that LeBron, when he's first with Cleveland, that he took this sabbatical with the back injury, that was happening. But the thing that just stood out with me was when he said that was like, I don't think LeBron missed 3 full weeks with the Miami Heat in his entire 4 years. LeBron was like the epitome of durability, which, look, if you're a skeptic towards his natural gifts, like that durability is freakish. So maybe I guess that weighs in on your argument, but it was pretty crazy that Jeff Teague threw that out there and walked that back very quickly. It was very much like in the ilk of like, ooh, I think somebody got a very angry phone call. And by the way, I like that Jeff Teague podcast. He says some wild stuff. He's way too his takes against D Wade are wildly dumb. But he's an entertaining podcast host. There's no doubt about that. That entire 520 Club podcast is, I think, one of the best ones that's hosted by a former player. But you got to be careful when you're in this media game because you say things like that and it gets into the Twitter sphere and people run with it, even with a very well plugged in allegedly by him. I do think it did make me think of one thing though, and I did feel like I don't know, look, if. And I'm saying this all on just what ifs and whatnot. I've seen enough, and I grew up all of my baseball heroes, who I still think should be in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds, greatest baseball player I've ever seen in my life. Knowing that people on the 03 Marlins were juiced to the gills. Some of my favorite fighters. A lot of juicing allegations around Manny Pacquiao. A lot of juicing tests around John Bones Jones. I'm pretty numb to all of it just because I know it was in the ether of sports and I wasn't one of these guys who came up with the holier than thou baseball writers. But I will say, though I would never be surprised if something was unveiled that maybe LeBron James did something. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying in a complete hypothetical. And even if that was with the Miami Heat, I do think that he's like the only athlete left that people would genuinely care if he juiced or not. And so I think that's why Jeff Teague has to be careful with what he says, even if there were suspicions. And I think people have always been. When you play to first of all, he's the freak of all freaks. I remember watching this kid in high school. When I was in high school, watching his high school games. Freak of all freaks. But genetic freaks aside, I think people always wonder, this guy never gets hurt. He plays into unprecedented times and is still this productive. Now, it's been said that LeBron James spends millions of dollars to keep his body right. But I think all of it has been thought of. It's in the sense of recovery. It's all on the level, all that stuff. I genuinely think he's the last athlete who really bends the mind of whether or not he's natural. And I don't know that he is, But I do think he's the last guy that people would really care about if it was found out that he wasn't. I don't think there's any other athlete that it would matter anymore. In terms of people wanting to believe. And I think because so much of his legacy has been chasing ghosts and has been chasing Michael Jordan and GOAT status and all that type of stuff, that if it found out that there was something going on there, and I don't know, Michael Jordan might have juiced. I don't know. But I think if it was found out that LeBron did, I actually think that would genuinely damage people's image of him even more, and especially the ones who really believed in him. So that's why I think when Jeff Teague throws stuff like that out, and he's not even just some gas bag, though he does a very hilarious podcast, an entertaining podcast. You're his peer. You played with him, even though he waxed you in the playoffs every single time. Now, do I think people should be coming up to him at a gas station and defending? No, it's a podcast. You need to handle this stuff like adults. LeBron will probably handle it with his lawyers, and you need to just tweet angry things at him. You don't need to go to a gas station and harass Jeff Teague. That's ridiculous. But I do think that there's something about him that I think that upholds the longevity. How he really has stayed pretty, scandal-free his entire existence for being a child basketball star, prodigy. And so there's something to believe in there. And so that's why I think it was why it is so harmful. And look, when you see something unprecedented, you are looking for explanations of stuff. But I also just think he is one of one unicorn freak. I do think that too. I don't think my thought has always been with this stuff is that, yeah, people do this stuff because it works, but also there's the freak of freaks. There are the John Joneses who, yeah, maybe they dabbled in something, but come on. They're also the perfect tool set for all fighting. There's Barry Bonds, who was already the greatest hitter. So I don't know. It was funny to see that one get walked back real quick by Jeff Teague. There was some more LeBron to the Heat fodder. That's kind of becoming the new cute thing. That it's funny that the national bandwagon has kind of caught up to the Miami bandwagon, talking about a LeBron potential return. And this was sports guy Zach Lowe. They've been on their little podcast. CBS did a list, and it is interesting now that everybody has seen the dust settle. It does feel like the drama has calmed down on LeBron James leaving the Lakers. It does feel like, Summer League seems like some tensions may have been eased. Who knows? Maybe it resurfaces with the Luka extension. I don't know. But it is interesting. You've seen Lowe. You've seen Simmons. They're all like, Zach Lowe, though, his trade was a little wonky because he was like, oh, you got to get Khalil Ware in a trade like that. And I just thought, well, LeBron James is all-time better than Kevin Durant. The Heat just told you they're not trading Kevin Durant for Khalil Ware. They just went through a lot of drama with Khalil Ware at the Summer League where he responded well. I don't think the Heat are trading for LeBron James unless it is, I've given the deal who I think it would be. I think it would be LeBron, Bronny, Gabe Vincent, and I think it would be like Wiggins, Rozier for the salary, Jaquez, probably Highsmith. And that would be where they go. I mean, could they, if they're not taking Terry, could they do some other mechanism? Maybe. But obviously, those are I think if a young piece were to go out, the Heat would give them Jaquez. I can't see the Heat giving up Khalil Ware for LeBron James. I honestly don't even really did the Lakers not just get DeAndre Ayton too? I didn't think that made a whole lot of sense, but just so I'm clear here with this, the LeBron James to the Heat, he has a no trade clause. I don't know what that looks like in the Heat giving up a ton of assets for him, but I don't think the Heat are going to give up a ton of assets to get LeBron James, and that is him being an all-time player. But I think the Heat would be like, we'll take the drama off your hands if you think this is going to be him making a stink. Mind you, he does have a no-trade clause, so he gets to dictate where he wants to go, and that kind of puts you in a tough spot negotiating. It doesn't usually lend you to get what you want. At least with this, with the Kevin Durant situation, he had a list of teams that he would go to. There was a negotiation. It was dragged out. They had other options. Now you're going to be in a spot you're already in a spot in this offseason where not a ton of teams can have the mechanisms to make that trade. Then you have to put onto it like the timing, whether or not you're going to take it. Again, I think most likely LeBron's going to play this year with the Lakers, finish the year with the Lakers, and then maybe look for greener pastures for a one last dance type of thing. And maybe that does end up being Miami. I don't know. But if it doesn't, the fact that everybody's kind of catching up to what's pretty obvious, and like this was a process of elimination. Like you just saw, there weren't that many available teams to do it. And it being in the Eastern Conference, if he did want to make one last run, Rich Paul made this whole thing about, one last run, one last team, all that type of stuff. And notice like Simmons and Lowe got very much into the Heat are kind of this sleeper. The Heat are now getting treated very chic, which is interesting off of that the Norman Powell deal. But I do think people realize like this East is very much a mixed bag. The odds for the Heat are really, really, really low to do anything in this Eastern Conference. But I do think that they do have some flexibility and some levers to pull if something were to happen. I think the Heat want to take stock of it. I think they want to see how Tyler and Bam work with these new nucleus, how those young guys develop and take a step to really determine where they want to go. So this may be one of those things where the Heat do want to see things out a little bit before adding somebody in the middle of the season. LeBron getting traded in the middle of the season, I know that was something they kicked around too, and I was like, I don't know. I feel like if LeBron is going to get traded, I feel like that's something that is going to get done before the year. If he gets, my thought is if he gets to training camp with the Lakers, he's seeing this thing out with the Lakers. I don't know. I can't see, because I don't think that team's going to be bad. Like, it would have to be he gets there and they would be awful, and then he's like, I want to just get out of here. And so, unless he's pulling a Jimmy Butler and is like doing one-legged fadeaways, hard for me to imagine that that this is something that wouldn't get done before the season if it were to get done at all, which it probably won't. But knowing how, knowing the type of player, the options that are out there, everybody's kind of putting two and two together. Be like, well, if the Knicks aren't that interested, if the Mavericks only want to buy out, if the Cavaliers are in the second apron, the Clippers don't necessarily have the flexibility, then, round and round we go, we kind of land. There's not so many places for him to land on. It's a huge, hefty contract to trade for, and he's got a no trade clause, and it's got to be a situation that he wants. But that's, that thought process now that it could end up being here does feel like it's becoming more mainstream, and these Heat fans who are discussing this, don't seem so kooky after all now, do they?